So awesome. And just some little things that I, saw and heard from you there that you're saying, you've only been in for 5 years. Like to be doing what you're doing so strategically and with such creativity, 5 years in, that really is phenomenal, because these are some pretty, out of the box ways of thinking, and for you to be able to just grasp that and do it from the get-go. So and then secondly, the fact that the reason that you went down that road was because you realized that the banks weren't liking you for different reasons, not because of, bad credit or anything, but just, they don't like certain things at certain times. And we find ourselves there as investors. So I think that we're coming into that era again of tightness from the banks. You think?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, my phone's been busy for the last month or so. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So this kind of stuff where as investors, those watching can say, "Oh, that's me too. I'm there too." It's awesome. So you found yourself in that spot. You realized you need to get a little bit more creative. So you decided to start advertising to people to come to you, right? Like you've got lots. So let's separate this conversation into two kind of main things. One is, where do you find these people that are supposedly going to just do all this stuff with you that is so cool? That's the first one. And the second one is, now once you're talking to them, what are some of the ideas? So we'll get into that after, but let's talk a little bit of, you found yourself needing to have people come to you. What are some of the things that you did to start moving that forward, so that you weren't going out all the time looking for these people, they were calling you?
Yeah, good question. I discovered very, very quickly that the difference between a cold lead and a warm lead. So I don't have a background in marketing. It was brand new cold, warm lead lingo to me. But
Yeah.
like literally, if I knock on someone's door and say, "Hey, are you interested in selling?" Yeah, that conversation doesn't usually go great. That's hard, like going door to door and taking a lot of rejection. So I really preferred the,
Yeah.
okay, let's attract them to me. How do I get them at least halfway motivated? And then we'll start a conversation. So really, I started with the basics and I asked a whole lot of questions. And then I thought, okay, well, let's try building a website. Let's do Google AdWords. Let's respond to some Kijiji ads. So I started with some of the basics, like I think a lot of people do. And then I took it from there,
Yeah.
and I've tried a whole bunch of other different things too, like mail outs. I've just gotten started in. I'm looking forward to doing a click funnel. I've never built one of those before, but I hear they're all the rage.
Well, like we've said in Ignited, we're saying to everyone who's doing these websites, we're like, just hold off on your website. Just, we're going to do a training on ClickFunnels. I think it's next Tuesday actually, or maybe the one after, because yeah, they're pretty powerful. Just, doesn't matter what business you're in. So when you started, moving into the ideas that you wanted to be talking to people straight on, right? The sellers themselves. Now, why is that? Why is it, a good strategy for you in your business to be able to do that?
So when I talk to realtors about creative strategies, again, I've made lots of mistakes, but generally what I have found is that most realtors want to sell houses and they would like their full commission. So I found when I was saying, well, what about a vendor take back? Oh, well, what about an agreement for sale? That it was the realtor that would tend to block the transaction. And I would never get to the point of actually talking to the homeowner who maybe I could have helped with a creative strategy and gotten them out of their house faster. So then yeah, I've gone back now. I now work with some realtors, and we just work on basically like a little mini contract basis. If they bring me someone that they can't sign on, then I just use them as a consultant, pay them a consulting fee.
Perfect. Beautiful. I know the Edmonton Realtor here, Alberta on Fire, they've been putting together some really creative deals for people with the sellers already having been sold into seller financing or agreements for sale or whatever. They've got that all settled, and then it's like, here's your contract. And so that's, yeah, and lots of our investor-focused realtors are getting onto that. However, it's still a great thing for you to be able to talk directly. And as you know, there's a lot of emotion involved when you find a motivated seller. They're usually needing to sell for, pretty emotional reasons. And so it's sometimes nice when we can talk straight up to to a seller, correct?
Absolutely. And my apologies to the gentlemen who are watching today, but I especially find that when the seller is a woman and she can sit down and talk to another woman like me, I find that sort of developing as my niche and that, like, seriously, sometimes a full on box of Kleenex. You're right, it's very emotional sometimes.
Yeah, it is. So let's talk about some of that. Let's talk about some of the scenarios that you've run into. There's going to be those that are kind of consistent, and then those that are a little bit, here and there, whatever. But what are some of those scenarios that you run into where you see an opportunity where, let's be clear about this, you're benefiting as an investor, absolutely. But you're from them, you are out there to find something that actually helps them. I've been in that position before. I've been able to help people. It's amazing and empowering that you've run into and that you see that people can kind of keep their eye out for.
So a lot of people, when they're moving and they've already had their house listed for 2, 3, 6 months, and literally, like, the moving van is coming soon, and how are they going to afford to be able to pay for the house that they're leaving and the house that they're moving to? That's a big category of people.
And you know what I love about that one, for me anyway, this is when I think of motivated sellers, I used to think of people that were difficult to deal with a little bit, maybe in over their heads, a problem that I had to figure out how to fix for them. But in that scenario, the problems are fairly straightforward. They've often, got things in order, things are okay, but they need another option. So right? It's not a huge bunch of work on those ones.
Yeah, and they're so grateful. Like, instead of paying, for example, 4,000 a month, now they're down to 2,000 a month. They think that's like all the money in the world. They're so grateful. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so people that are moving who've had their homes listed for a while have already moved on in some capacity or need to move on, and you can provide another option. And again, for those just jumping on, so we do have people jumped in with us. Hey guys, thanks for joining us. I see y'all here, so way to roll with it. Thank you. So we're just talking about the kinds of scenarios that we see when Deb has started advertising and getting motivated sellers to come to her instead of her having to chase people, which is really hard on the self-esteem. And we talk about that in joint venture partnerships all the time. Instead of you going out and having to ask people, have them come to you, become attractive, right? So we talk about that in Ignited all the time, but same applies here. So what kind of scenario? So that's one scenario, moving scenario where they're just so grateful for another option. What else do you see, Deb?
Right now, I'm getting a lot of calls from people who are divorcing. So neither one of them by themselves can afford to pay for the existing house. Typically, one partner is already living somewhere else and may or may not be sharing the expenses. And both of them are going to lose their credit if they don't figure out some kind of solution. Tricky. There's a lot of moving parts with the separation and the divorce.
You often deal with them as completely different, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes one will say yes and the other will say no, and that's okay. I just leave the door open and say, you can come back to me at any time. We can revisit this idea. Go ahead, pursue your other options, but I'm still here.
Beautiful. I love it. That's awesome. Okay. And I'm curious, is that just because like since COVID began that you're getting all those calls, or has that been going on for a little while now?
I would always have a trickle of that, but oh my goodness, since the beginning of March, yes, it's definitely increased since COVID.
Yeah. Crazy. What a crazy world we've got right now. And that's the thing with all of this, all of what's going on in the world, hands down. At the same time, there are financially, emotionally, mentally drained. And they do need an alternative from someone that's not going to just take the carpet out from under them, someone that's going to actually try to make it a true win for them. And so that's why I wanted to talk to you, because I know from dealing with you in Ignited, you are always doing the right thing, ethically, morally. You are trying to find the best thing as a win, and if you can't do that, you're not interested. And I love that. That's why I've been pursuing you so much. Yes.
Well, and the whole deal flows much more smoothly when the seller feels like they're getting a win, for
True.
sure.
Yeah, right? You're on the same side and you're moving in the same direction. That's a whole lot easier.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so divorces, people that are moving and need to move on quickly for whatever reason. What else are you saying?
Inherited properties where there isn't any money in the, what do you call it, estate. So now they've got this house. I don't usually talk to people until they have probate. So they've got probate, they've got the house, but now they've got taxes, insurance, utilities, and it's still not selling because it might be, I don't know, 500 years old with 1960s wallpaper.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly. And
So those people are like, okay, so we're gonna like lose this whole inheritance, or at least that's their mindset, if we don't figure out a solution. So then I'm looking at solutions for them as well.
beautiful. Yeah. I love that a lot of what you're seeing and saying is a lot of really workable things that people just need a solution to. They don't need like crazy stuff happening. It's just they just need a solution. So, okay, so any other scenarios that you're seeing that people, and the reason we're saying this, guys, the reason we're talking about this is because when you're out there, looking at Kijiji, or driving around your neighborhoods, or you see a garage sale, or someone that's in a situation like this, these really are opportunities for you to help people. And only by recognizing those opportunities will you kind of be like, huh, you know what? I might be able to do something here. We're going to talk a little bit later about what that something might be and how these things can be structured very on a high level, just not too much detail, just the idea of it. But this is so that you can look around in your circle and see those things. So what else are we seeing, Deb?
So the obvious one is the job losses all across the country, doesn't matter what your market is. And this is the easiest one, I think, because you can literally be in your neighborhood out for a walk and somebody is telling you their story. And then you can, just say, if it comes to a point, just know that I am working with a group of people that buys houses. Feel free to give me a call and we'll have a totally confidential conversation about it.
Oh, I like that. Okay, can you repeat that again for me? It doesn't have to be
Probably
exact.
not.
No, it doesn't have to be exact, but let's say I'm out for a walk, I talk to someone and that situation comes up, then what are you going to say to them to open that conversation so that you have an ability? It was such a nice way of putting it.
Well, basically, my intention is that I hope they can find a solution. But if it ever comes to the point where they're thinking about doing something with the house, I just want to share with them that I'm working with a group of people that buys houses right now in Alberta, because that's where we are. So feel free to give me a call and it'll be totally confidential, no commitment. We'll just chat about some of your options. I'd love to share that with you if it could help.
It's beautiful. It's perfect. It's, I want the best for you. Go do what you got to do. I'm not hounding you, but just so you know, I'm dropping a seed that this is what I do. And I love that you third party it. You say, you're not saying I can buy your house. You're saying I work with a group of investors. And so that takes, a step back for them emotionally, I think.
For sure. Yeah.
The other thing I loved was confidential. You said, it will be a confidential call. Because you know what? We've all been there where there's, I remember, I'll never forget being at the grocery store and my card not going through. I mean, you want to run under a rock and hide. I had collection agencies calling me for a loan we co-signed for someone else. And it wasn't even my bill, but I was embarrassed about it. So that's a beautiful point. Love it.
You know what's interesting? It doesn't matter what their story is, whether it's job loss, inheritance, or divorce or whatever. Like an underlying theme of most people is that they are embarrassed. So one of the first things I do when I'm talking to people is, oh, you know what? I've heard that story like 10 times already this month. Like I try to put them at ease and normalize it a little bit.
I love it. Yeah. See? Beautiful tips. Beautiful. So normalize it for them. Let them know that that's okay and that they're not, they're not weird or whatever for being in this position.
They're not the only one. Like, I hear this more than just your particular story is what I'm telling people.
Yeah, I love it. That's great. And I'll just talk to you guys for a second that are watching and have joined in. I'm glad you guys all found us. Lots of fun with technology lately. So you guys, if you have any questions for Deb, throw them in the feed here. So we're talking about finding motivated sellers. What are the different things that she's tried? We're going to get to that right now. What are the things that you've tried that didn't work for you? And what are the things that you're finding do work? Throw your questions in because she's an open book. She's willing to share. I know she is because I know that she's always willing to help other investors. So if you're, kind of wondering about something, now's the time to ask. So I just got to read you one comment. It says, oh my gosh, I love this. The ability to help someone out of a difficult situation and then help again by sharing the opportunity with a GV partner. Could one ask for more? Right?
It is. It's a great feeling when you get that win-win all around. Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. So what are some of the things that you tried? Like, I know I tried when I was looking to attract motivated sellers. I mean, I did everything from like what you mentioned already, going door knocking. I mean, I door knocked, oh my goodness, more than I could probably tell you. I did the letter mail outs. I did ads in Kijiji. I did the We Buy Houses signs. I did a magnet decal on my car. Like, I did it all. So what are some of the things that you did that you find worked or did not work?
Well, I was thinking about it before this session. So all of those things are all the obvious things that people are already doing. One of the things one of the tips that I could share with people that took a while is I used to have like a little business card, and really it was useless. I still have it just in case, but I started producing like a flyer. It's like 5 by 9 inch flyer. So I can use that for a mail out. I can put that up on a bulletin board at a grocery store. I can leave it when I actually visit someone's house and have a conversation with them and they're not ready yet. And honestly, sometimes I'll come back 2 months later and there's my cute little flyer with a magnet on the fridge. So the flyer has kind of been really inexpensive and flexible advertising tool that I've used in a lot of different ways.
Awesome. Now, would you tell us what you have on there, just in general? What does your flyer say? What's the overall messaging?
Yeah, so no realtor fees. So if somebody owes basically what their house is worth, that's super valuable to them.
Yeah.
You can leave anything behind, so you don't need to do repairs. I usually put something in like that. So for the people who have inherited a house, for the people who are downsizing to something smaller, they don't want to fix all those things they've been putting off for 5 years.
Yeah, or 30.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to be polite. Yeah. Um, and then I'll even say, leave your stuff behind. You don't need to clean or paint. It will do it all. Usually I say something to the effect of it's all legal. So we do it all so that it's honest, straight up, above board. There's no funny business involved. Because really, as soon as you step away from working with a realtor, some people get suspicious immediately and they're like, oh, I've never heard of that.
For sure, 100%. That's why, building that trust with them when you're talking one-on-one is so important, because it a lot of people are afraid, because there are those out there that are willing to just take them for everything that they're worth. And yeah, so it's good. It's good that you say that up front and say to them, like, this is why we're doing it, and have that conversation. It's great.
Yep, for sure.
So I have a couple questions that have come in for you, and you guys keep them coming. We'll hit them up as we go. So Melanie says, how do we learn how we can actually help them? So specifically, you listen to their story and you know how you can help, but how do you become the expert on what the best solution will be?
Oh, good question.
Right?
Yeah. So a couple of things. I would say don't worry about being the expert. Like if you take a course with Barry and Donna McGuire, they will always say, don't worry about being perfect, just do your first deal. And so the direct answer to that question is really working through all the steps of the different scenarios, whether you're actually doing it as a real deal or doing it where you're acting as if, like pretending it's a real deal. And okay, so what would I do next here? What would I do next there? What are the advantages of joint venturing with the seller? What are the advantages of agreement for sale? What about a vendor take back? So when you, even if someone says no, when you work through all those possibilities, as if you're going through with it, it kind of teaches you the process and helps you get better at it. At least it helped me.
Absolutely. I think the no's and the deals that fell through probably gave us more success even than the ones that went easily, because we didn't learn nearly as much as those ones that just were clear sailing for us. So I love that. So and just so you know, on that note, we talked to Donna the other day, and so we'll have a coupon code for you guys for their course, because that's where Deb learned what she knows, and so we'll make sure to have that out. And I think maybe next week, or yeah, in the next few days here, we'll have a little bit more of a program. So if you want to learn from Barry and Donna, which are the best, then certainly we'll be able to help you do that. And, I don't know, since COVID, because we haven't really talked about it with them, but we were supposed to have a day seminar or a weekend seminar with them, kind of retreat style, on this kind of stuff. So we haven't actually talked about that in a while, but hey, maybe this is a good intro to it, because certainly with the change in climate that we've had, we're definitely going to see a lot more people that need creative options. And, now's the time for us to be learning them and knowing them, so that we know exactly what we're doing, so that we know exactly how to bring it and help them when they need it. So yeah.
And I think they were asking in the question about being the expert. I still don't feel like I'm an expert after all this, but I know that my lawyers have my back. I know my lawyer is an expert, right? So
Yeah.
if I mess something up on the paperwork, my lawyer's going to catch it, and that gives me the confidence to keep moving forward, keep learning, and keep trying to figure it out.
I love it. That's the thing, right? When you don't have to know, we always say that to people in real estate, you don't have to know everything, but you have to have someone that does. So that team, right?
Yeah, for sure. That's absolutely golden in the creative strategy world.
Right?
Yeah.
Totally. Okay, so another question. Let me see. How are you finding the people who have inherited those houses?
So sometimes I'll do very specific ads, Facebook ads, where I'll have some kind of image that suggests an inherited house. And sometimes it's like a really old dilapidated house. And sometimes it's not. It's like older person's hands and a younger person's hands and a house in the middle. So sometimes it plays to how do I get rid of the house with all kinds of, damage or whatever. And sometimes it just plays to, okay, I have this inherited house. I have no idea what to do with it. So it doesn't always seek the desperate seller because they're not all desperate.
Right. Yes, it's true. I love that they're not all desperate because that takes the emotion out and it gives a whole lot like easier sailing for us as those that are talking to them. But yeah, that's okay. So sometimes you specifically, so Marie, to answer your question, she sometimes does these ads specific to find them. And also when you're just doing ads in general for, and you've like Deb has created a system. She's got a website, she drives traffic to it, and they start learning about her. And, a lot of times they'll be like, that's who's going to end up calling because that's who's in that position. So it's one of those things where there's, two kinds of advertising. One is for branding or awareness, sorry, and one is for sales. And this is one of those awareness advertisings. It's like creating an ecosystem where when people enter it, they kind of just know that that's the deal when they meet you. Yes?
Yeah, and what's really interesting is my ads that are specific
Yeah.
to inherited houses tend to get shared more, where somebody sees it and shares it with someone they know who has a inherited house and doesn't know what to do with it.
Oh, so interesting. Hey? So
Yeah, yeah.
And for those that have just jumped on, like kind of a little bit, because we had some technical difficulties, I just want to reiterate to you, Deb is only 5 years into her investing. So, and the reason she started getting creative and finding these motivated sellers and doing these creative options is because she was in a position of self-employment, where, the banks don't always want to talk to you. And so for any of you guys that are listening, they're in that position. You don't have to be as a long-term investor. You don't have to know all the answers. Like she said, you don't have to be the expert. You don't have to qualify at a bank. There's other options, and that's what we're talking about tonight. So we have a few more questions for you. You okay with that?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Natalie says, how commonly does this end up being a labor of love? You're planting all these seeds and then you don't hear back for months.
You know what? I'm really only a year into like aggressive marketing. And so when I talk to people who've done this for quite a bit longer, they will say they get calls back like a year, 2 years, 5 years later. And that's part of why I love my flyer too, because it's harder to lose than a business card. So I'm hoping it'll stick around.
I love it. That was such a good tip. So, for you guys that missed it, go back and watch the part about the 9x5 flyer instead of a business card. And we found the same thing, Deb, when we were doing that. I would get a call from someone and I would ask them how they heard about me and they wouldn't say, or they didn't remember or whatever. Then I'd go to their home to meet with them. And there's my letter that I had sent to them, or my, different thing that I had done. And I was like, oh, wow, crazy. I thought that failed. Like, I thought that didn't work. But it's about that consistency and being that person that, they see it, they think, no, I'm not there yet. I don't want to have to go there. But when they need to, you're still on their fridge, right?
Totally, yeah. One of my first deals that I followed through on, it was one of those, oh, darn, I really thought I had that one. And then I heard nothing for about a month. And then they called, and there was no more discussion. There was no more sales pitch. There was no more anything. It was just, okay, bring the contract. We're ready to sign. Oh, okay.
It's true, because often by then they've made their decision. They've realized that they've tried every other option and this is the best one that they've found that works for them. And so yeah, you're right. It's kind of nice.
Yeah, so I don't ever consider it a labor of love. Even if I get 20 no's and I only get one yes, it's still all bringing me closer to those yeses. And if I have that deal for 5 to 7 years with no bank qualifying, that's like thousands of dollars. So was that worth getting 20 no's? For me, I think yes. I mean, everybody spends their time their own different way, but for me, I think that was a good investment.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. The no's take you closer to that next yes. Okay, what do we got here? How soon after first telling someone what you do you end up getting a meeting?
Oh, it totally depends. So, I recently had a very funny story where someone called on a Friday night and they told me about this house full of asbestos tile, and I'm like, oh, but I promised myself that I would follow through on every lead. So I call her back on a Saturday, and when I listened to her story, I'm like, oh my goodness, thank goodness I called her back. It ended up being one of my best wholesale deals so far. So you just never know. It is always worth following up on a call, whether you think it's going to go anywhere or not, for sure.
And that's something we haven't touched on yet, is that not only do these deals, or do this kind of marketing and systemizing of your business to bring these motivated sellers to you, not only does it help you in acquiring and filling your portfolio, but it also can help create cash flow. So let's talk about that a little bit. So wholesaling. So I've seen that you've wholesale dealers. I remember the first time that we talked on our one-on-one when you came into Ignited, it was like, okay, what's the plan for this? And so, with wholesale deals, how do you decide if you're going to keep that one or if you're going to wholesale it up?
Good question. I work very hard at not getting emotionally attached to properties. So it was a mistake that I made early on, and it totally messed with my systems. So now I think if I would buy that property, then it is also good enough to wholesale. So I will put it out to wholesale for people if I think it's good enough for me to buy. And if someone takes it, great. And then the asbestos house was an all cash deal. I wasn't sitting on hundreds of thousands of dollars. So that was not an option to keep.
Yeah.
But it worked out very well for everybody in the end. And so that's how I try and do it. I try and stay unattached. So yes, I'll wholesale it, maybe I'll keep it, but if I would keep it, those are the best deals because I'm not afraid to wholesale them. I know I'm not giving somebody my leftovers.
Right, for sure. And for a lot of the deals that you do have, whether that's with a vendor take back on it, whether it's an agreement for sale, whether it's whatever the scenario it is, you often take a joint venture partner on it so that you can then partner. You bring someone else in on the deal and say, look, I don't have the money for all of this or whatever, but here's a fantastic contract that I've negotiated. Here's an amazing deal. Let's joint venture on it together. And then you're sharing all of your fruits of your labor, all of that benefit with a partner.
Yeah, and I decided that I really wanted to get in it for the long game. So one of the strategies that I'm using is to protect my reputation. And doing that means that I have to stand behind every deal. So if I'm trying to wholesale a bit of a dog's breakfast, that's going to come back and hurt me really quickly.
Totally. And Deb, we've seen that in 17 years of being around now. It's amazing how many people will, sacrifice the rest of their investing career and reputation for a deal. And we're like, no, you cannot compromise on ethics and on what's right and wrong, because it will catch you, and they all fall, and that's great. I'm happy to see them when they fall. I'm okay with it completely. But you're right. Every single thing that you do is being watched, and how you do one thing is how you do many things. So, and that's, again, why I so wanted you to be the person to talk to us about this. So thank you again for doing it, because I know it was hard, but you're doing amazing, by the way. Like, you're doing amazing. You really are.
It's good to step out of your comfort zone, right? You didn't ask me to eat bugs, so it's all good.
Right? That's right. I didn't. Okay, so can you, let me see here. Can you all change? Oh, sorry. Sorry, that was something totally different. What are the different scenarios? JV, AFS, VTP. Those are kind of, without getting into the details of them, which we can certainly do trainings on those another time, but JV with them, AFS, VTB, anything else kind of stand out to you, Deb?
Those are the big three. Sometimes with seniors that are downsizing, we will work out a deal where they become the holder of the mortgage. So if they don't need the money to buy their cute little condo and they don't owe any money on their house because they've lived there for 5 million years, so sometimes we'll set it up so that they're basically getting a mortgage payment of some kind, principal and interest, maybe $1,500 a month. And then look at that. They didn't have to sell their house and compromise on price. They get extra income every month. So that would be the only other kind of strategy that I sometimes pull out.
Okay, so it's a VTB with a twist. It's like a first
Yeah,
mortgage
yeah.
instead of a second, which is often a VTB, and again, it's offering them an opportunity to hold an investment in what they've already have. So yeah, beautiful. Again, we've got so many people, just saying thank you, thank you, thank you. So you're so inspiring. And I have a question. What's your web address? So how do we best get a hold of you, Deb?
I've decided that the motivated sellers and the investors are two very different groups of people. So I don't know if they were asking for my investor website.
Yeah, let's do that one.
Okay, so it's Mountains Edge Developments.
.com?
.com, yeah, sorry.
Okay. And it's Mountains Edge?
No apostrophe.
Okay, but with an S.
Yes.
Maybe let me see here. If I go, I can probably type it Mountains Edge Developments.
Yeah.
.com.
And I think Facebook is just at
so there's
Mountain.
Mountains Edge Developments. I know you're Deb Kennedy for sure. Debbie Kennedy maybe on Facebook.
Yeah, I think it's just under Deb Kennedy. Yeah.
And we'll put that in the comments. Oh, look at this. Oh, Devin says, can we have both sites? So that's your investors one.
So, and they both have Facebook pages associated with them. So the motivated seller one, apparently my video isn't working right now, but hopefully that will be fixed tomorrow. So it is westerncanadianhomebuyers.ca.
Yeah, beautiful. And you know what, we ended up doing the same thing because when we first started, we had a website that talked to our investors, talked to our motivated sellers, and talked to our tenants. Well, not the most brilliant moment. Our tenants were like, okay, wait, so you got this at a really good deal? And it was really not a good thing. So have them separated, brilliant. Yeah.
It makes the marketing so much easier.
Yes, for sure. And we've got Grant on here making sure that you've got all of the links in, and Jazz. So yeah, Jazz says you're beating me, Grant. So thanks, guys. That's awesome. Okay, so a couple more questions. Let me see. Yeah, interesting. I can't see who says this, but it says, funny, my brother and I ended up selling our parents' house a couple of years ago after I'd interviewed 3 real estate agents. It was all about timing. We answered a letter that the new buyers left in the mailbox.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, for sure. How do you manage to separate emotions from investment mindset in these situations? Is it challenging? Do you try to help too much and withdraw? Such a good question.
Oh.
Right?
Yeah. So making a bunch of mistakes early on is a great way to learn. But
it hurts so bad that you never do it again.
That happens sometimes, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I always, yes, I would love to help everybody, but I'm very strict now with my thinking. So for right now, in today's market, I did not cause COVID. I did not cause the current economic fallout from COVID, and I did not cause whatever is making them sell their house today. But maybe I can fix one of the stresses in their lives. I can't fix everything. I didn't cause everything. Maybe I can fix one thing. Maybe I can help you out with your house. But I also need to make sure that I'm doing that with good business sense. So if I'm doing it, am I going to lose money? That's not good. And if I'm putting it out there to wholesale to my investors, well, they're never even going to read my post if I'm setting them up to lose money. So it still has to make good business sense.
I think so I've got chills, and I think that I needed to hear that, Deb, because right now I'm so stuck between, I know that this sucks for people. It's terrible. But I also know that opportunity is coming, because we've been here enough times to see it, that I know opportunity is coming, and I know that I make it a win for people. And so I've got lots of okayness with that. But just what you said, I didn't cause COVID. I didn't want this to happen. I didn't cause this to happen. But maybe I can make something a little bit better for them. And I love that take on it. It's being a good human. And yeah, thank you. I needed to hear that today.
Well, and it's very hard because there is a whole mindset of blaming other people, blaming the world. So yes, do I get yelled at on a regular basis? I'm afraid so. So
Yeah,
it's taken me a while to, develop a thicker skin and say, things are really crummy in their life. I didn't cause it. Maybe I can't fix it. Maybe they're too far underwater. But all I can do is try, right?
I love it. Yeah. I think that's such a great like balance, right? Like you said, you have to be there and be smart, but at the same time, this is yeah, people's lives. So I love it. All right, people are saying thank you for that. Oh, George, that was George who said that, George Clark. Okay, so yeah, so couple more questions I have for you. We have a few more minutes here if you're good to keep rolling.
Yeah, yep, still breathing.
Awesome. And it's funny, I said to Nan, I think it was Nan, or maybe it was Corey. I said, I think we're gonna need Deb twice, because there's and I said, but we're not going to tell her that until she's done the first one and seeing that it's okay and that it's all good. But there's so much to this topic. There's the motivated sellers and the opportunities that are coming for investors to not only benefit from it, but help others at the same time. And then there's the whole other side of things. Now, how do you structure them? What are my options? What's an agreement for sale? What's probate? I remember you mentioned probate, and I was going to say, what is all of those things. There's that kind of whole thing. So, and people are saying, love this. Thank you so much. This is wonderful. So it's awesome. And they're saying we would love another session with Deb spreading her knowledge.
Yikes.
I love it. Okay, so a couple of things. So you said that there's some tips that you've learned along the way when you're talking to people in their homes and you're dealing with owners one-on-one. What are some of the biggest tips that you can give? I mean, you said you had to learn the hard way what works, what doesn't. What are some of the tips you can give on how to approach sellers, or what is the things that work?
I think more listening, less talking. So when I first get onto the telephone with them or in person with them, however that first meeting goes, oftentimes they have a lot of emotions. They might be anxious, they might be embarrassed. So I start with something that's relatively neutral territory. Just tell me about your house. How many bedrooms do you have? How many bathrooms? There's no emotion in that. Nothing
Right.
changes with the bedrooms and the bathroom. Well, it does sometimes, but anyways. So and I try in that initial part of the conversation to find something to connect with them on. So it has to be true. So I'm not gonna, do some kind of fancy sales technique where I'm schmoozing with them or anything. If I connect because we're both parents, then let's talk about that. If I connect because we talk to a lot of tradespeople, let's talk about that. So I try to find some kind of connection over that neutral topic of it's just a house. And I start with that, and I try to listen as much as I can to get a sense of, okay, are they desperate? Are they just curious? Are they kicking tires? Where do we go next?
Yeah. Okay. So you're listening instead of talking. You're connecting with them on something neutral. I love that. And in doing that, you're listening for some cues to whether or not you're able to help, available to help, whatever it might be. Yes?
Absolutely, yeah. And I'm listening for, is it already listed with a realtor? We can still work something out. We can still make sure the realtor gets paid, but I need to know that at the outset. And I'm, to be honest, so one of the things that I always do now, learn the hard way, I am investigating both the house and the human.
I was just
So
going to
I
ask
am,
you. Yeah.
yeah, I'm listening for any inconsistencies in the story that might point to a bigger issue that I may or may not want to explore further.
So that was one of my questions here. So you say it's very important to do good homework on both the human and the house. So why is it important to do it on the human? I mean, money's money, deals are deals, real estate's real estate. Isn't it pretty cut and dry?
Depending on how we're talking about doing this deal, I may need to continue working with them on some level for the next 3, 5, 7 years. So
Ah,
if they're like already so far underwater, then I might get caught up in some court stuff I don't need to be a part of. If the husband and the wife are selling because of divorce and they really can't agree, maybe this isn't the best exit strategy for them. Maybe they need to just give it more time and sell traditionally so nobody gets caught up in that battle. Stuff
yeah.
like that.
Yeah, it's isn't it funny? It's all the intangibles, right? It's the human part of it. And I'm gonna, and I, you know what? I think you're the first person I've ever heard say that, and I love it because when we're talking about joint ventures, we always say it's like a marriage. You're going into business with these people for 5, 7, 10. Some of ours are 17 years. You better get along. You better be on the same page about things. And I never thought of it, but you're right, with an agreement for sale, for example. Let's give a quick overview of an agreement for sale. So what is an agreement for sale? Just really quickly, and why is it that you might have to deal with them for the next 5 years-ish or 7, whatever?
Uh, so I will take on the mortgage payments, the taxes, the insurance, all of the maintenance costs of the house, all of the property management, and I will become responsible for your entire mortgage balance. The title stays in your name, the mortgage stays in your name, but every bill, every possible payment associated with the house will become mine if we follow through on the deal.
Okay, so what's in it for me? If I'm a seller and you're agreeing to take over all of my bills and make my life easier now, what's in it for why? Why?
So basically, it's for people who don't need to go out there and get another mortgage, is sort of what we're saying. What's in it for you is you can move in 4 weeks if that's how quickly you need to go, or June 23rd, if that's the magic date that you want to be out of your house, we can arrange that. And so because I'm going to be paying all of the mortgage payments, etc., to the credit bureau, it will continue looking like you have perfect credit, perfect payment record, but all of those bills are coming from me. We will get a shared bank account so that you can see every month that that mortgage is being paid. I'll take over all of those payments.
Awesome. Okay, so what's in this for you then?
For me, generally, it's no bank qualifying and sometimes low money down. So in Alberta, especially right now, many of these deals are very low money down and no bank qualifying. So the first deal I ever did, I think it was $3,000 down, and I'll have that deal for 5 years. That's all it cost.
Awesome.
Well,
And so
plus closing costs.
okay, gotcha. And with that one, are you then renting it out now at this point, or what did you do with that one?
That one was a beautiful house. So it is actually a rent to own.
There we go.
Yeah,
Crazy. So do you have a joint venture partner on that one?
I do. Everybody's winning on that one. It's a busy property.
Right? That's
Yeah.
awesome. And I love how that's the beauty of it. There's so many options after. So Grant has a question for you. He says, so if it's not a good deal and you do hear those inconsistencies, I guess either one of those things, how do you disconnect to it? Do you just defer to a later time, or how do you kind of shut that door and say you're not in it?
So the honest answer is it depends. So for example, one lady, great house, great neighborhood. She was very keen on seller financing. And then I pulled title and the CRA had over $100,000 in various liens and et ceteras on the property.
And that's
So I just So I did call her back. I stayed professional. I followed through and I said, I noticed there's a number of outstanding bills on the title. I'm sorry, I'm not in a position to get involved at this point in time. Something to that effect, right? So polite, but yeah, we're out.
And I like how you didn't go into a big explanation then, like, oh, the CRA, if they're involved, it's really difficult as an investor and to clear that and blah blah. Like, you didn't explain the process or why you just said, you know what, I'm not in a position at this time to be able to participate. Done.
Occasionally I will blame it on my investors. So like I'll third party it like you do, like any of us would do with our tenants, right? And I'll
Yeah.
just say, I'm really sorry, I don't have any investors who are willing to take on the risk if there's a risk involved with it, like the asbestos property, or who are willing to move forward at this time. They're all scared about COVID, whatever the reason is. I will sometimes blame it on the investors.
Yeah, that's always nice. And if you haven't watched our training on third partying it, I think it's probably one of the best things that I ever learned early on in a different business when we took some sales training and that sort of thing was, third party, it's not always, your fault. And then that allows you to kind of emotionally distance as well. So distant. Grant, I'm sure that answered your question. I think, you know what? It's like 6:01.
Oops.
So I know, it's crazy. He says, yeah, it did answer my question, so that's great. It's awesome that this hour went so quick. I know that you gave us so many good nuggets, and I just want to show you. Can I show them? Can I show
Uh-oh. I don't know what you're showing them.
the notes that you sent me? This
Oh.
is how thorough you are, Deb. I ask you to be a panelist, or a speaker with us. This is the first time this has ever happened, by the way. And we've been doing, we've done whatever, 60 or so of these. This is page 1 of the notes that she sent me of things that she can add and help with. Page 2, page 3, page 4. And then if we needed to get into the numbers and the deal, which of course we didn't have time for, page 5. So if there's any doubt of how, detail-oriented, thorough, and what an amazing partner you are, both to those motivated sellers, to your joint venture partners, to your tenants, I just can't say enough about you and what you do, and everyone saying thank you so much for sharing. You're so thorough. Wow, this is amazing. This has been fantastic. Are you publishing a book soon? That's an interesting.
No, I think Donna is.
That girl too. My goodness, we can't keep her down.
Well,
So you know what? An aside from that, we really should just get on doing something with Barry and Donna about the agreement for sale. And we'd love to have you be a part of that, Deb, because I really think you have so much to offer. So think about that. And I know that it's not your forte to be, in the spotlight, but you really do have so much to offer, and you just say it so well. And anyways, I love it.
thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for being on with us. We'll do this again at some point, and maybe we can go into the agreements for sale a little bit more and talk about that. And then even, you know, if we have a day with Barry and Donna where we do like a virtual summit or whatever, I think that's kind of where it's going to have to go. Then maybe you can join us in that too. So, and
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, you're like, fun. Oh. No, really. Thanks so much, Deb. And thanks, guys. And we're going to jump over into Ignited. So we'll jump over into the laser session right away here, guys. But thank you guys for joining us. Thanks for putting up with our technology issues and for all jumping over here. We had more than 60 people on it for the whole entire time on, you know, jumps up and down. But we'll see you guys over in Ignited. And for the rest of you, we'll see you next Tuesday. And let us know if you guys want more information on AFS, because we can certainly bring some more info on that, and we'll see that coming in the coming months, won't we, Deb?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
It's gonna be big. All right. Oh, they're saying yes. Okay, guys. Cheers. Have a good night, and
good night, all.
everyone.